Welcome back to the Ed Show. Thanks for watching tonight. Republicans lost Latino voters by huge margins. So now the GOP is making its first post-election play at winning some of those voters back. Today, Republicans voted to limit legal immigration to this country and called it immigration reform. The STEM Jobs Act passed in the House earlier, 245 to 139. House Republicans tried to pass a version of a bill a few months back and failed. Why? Because the STEM Act is a bad bill. The White House has voiced its opposition to it because it doesn't pave a way forward for millions of undocumented workers in this country who are already here, and it pits immigrant communities against one another. The STEM Act would provide green cards for immigrants skilled in science, technology, engineering, and math. Foreign nationals who have earned a PhD or master's in one of those fields from an American university can stay here and use their skills to improve the American workforce. Sounds like a great idea, right? Sure, but it does so at the expense of other immigrants. And as the New York Times points out, it eliminates another visa category entirely, the diversity visas set aside for people from countries with relatively low immigration rates to the United States. So the 55,000 STEM visas would come at the expense of 55,000 diversity visas. That's a zero-sum game, folks. The elimination of diversity visas would primarily affect immigrants from African countries. But despite the discriminatory nature of the bill, Republicans insist, oh, it's going to create jobs. And they're calling out the Democrats' opposition to the legislation.
Once again, the House is taking the lead on legislation that is going to help create jobs.
We believe this was the first step forward in terms of trying to address the need for modernization in our visa laws.
The Democrats had 2 years to do something about immigration reform. They had a White House, they had the House, they had the Senate, and they did nothing about immigration reform.
Joining us tonight, Congressman Javier Becerra of California. Congressman, great to have you with us tonight.
Thanks, Ed.
You just heard Mr. Cantor say that this is a step forward. Do you agree with that?
Well, only for the Tea Party, perhaps, because we have a chance to do real, sensible immigration reform working together on a bipartisan basis. Republicans never reached out to Democrats. They knew this was an inferior bill. They knew it pits immigrants, as you said, against each other. It really hurts immigrants or families who are of African ancestry who want to bring family members the right way from Africa and also from Eastern Europe. And they do it to no real benefit to the American people because American workers might be disadvantaged because there are no protections for American workers to make sure that these newly authorized green cards for these very educated workers, which we do need, that the pay for those folks isn't undercutting the salaries that current American workers get for those same kinds of jobs.
So it creates as many problems as they think it solves. But is there anything in this legislation that could be salvaged that you could agree with?
Well, there is a STEM bill that we can pass, and what the Democrats did today in the House floor was say, look, this is the bipartisan bill that we could all agree to that doesn't play the zero-sum game, that doesn't undercut American workers when we do this. Let's vote for that. But I think the Tea Party is still driving the ship in the House Republican Conference, and until that changes, it will be tough. But there are good folks on the Republican side who are interested in trying to do a bipartisan bill.
Well, it's discriminatory, no question about that, because it's a zero-sum game. It hurts Americans who are here and those who want to come here as well. And what is it about the African-American community in this world that the Republicans don't want to allow into this country?
Well, you know, it's unfortunate because too often it's tough for a lot of families who have relatives from Africa to bring them here, those diversity visas, and they're called diversity visas because it's to try to make sure we diversify the base of people come to this country, Eastern Europeans, folks from different African countries. So they've always had, these families have always had a tough time getting the relatives here. You eliminate those 55,000 visa opportunities, it's almost impossible,
sure.
And that's unfortunate.
Is there a little political theater here? You know, they're saying that they're getting something done while we're in the middle of this fiscal cliff fight and blaming the Democrats for not doing it previously.
Well, Ed, the worst part about this is I don't even think the high-tech community believes this is real. They would have been lobbying and asking a lot of us to vote for it. They didn't even come lobby us to do something to push this through because they knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. But more than that, Ed, I think what is becoming very clear is the Latino community is no longer buying this kind of stuff.
Well, that's my next question. Will this win over anybody in the Latino community? Because, of course, the Republicans have certainly taken a hit at the polls with that portion of society.
I can't see how it does. The Latino community has grown accustomed to seeing Republicans propose things like the Arizona law, SB 1070, the proposals to deny children born in this country their citizenship, even though they are born in this country, proposals to deny the opportunity to bring your family with you if you do it the right way. It's been tougher. And remember, Republicans, I heard the piece where Representative Labrador said that Democrats had 2 years to try to do something.
Sure.
Well, perhaps Mr. Labrador forgets, we passed the DREAM Act in the U.S. House of Representatives. The Senate actually had more than a majority vote in the Senate, but because Republicans used that filibuster, we couldn't get the bill to the president for his signature. So Democrats have done things. We're ready to do them again. We'll do them bipartisanly.
Congressman Javier Becerra, great to have you on the Ed Show tonight. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Ed.
Coming up, Beau Obama's Christmas video. Well, it's making the rounds. But how does it compare to his predecessors? We'll check the tapes. Stay tuned.